Pregnant woman was taking photos in the corral, but the largest bull escaped and Samantha held her 7-month belly as she carefully positioned herself on the packed dirt floor of the corral. The photo shoot was her last chance to get the images she needed before it was too late. What she didn't know was that this afternoon would change her life forever. The gate of the larger pen creaked loudly, and Samantha felt her heart race as she saw Thunder, the nearly 1-ton breeding bull, walking straight toward her. The animal everyone on the ranch avoided was now just a few feet away, and there was no way she could run in her condition. "Please stay calm," she whispered, trying to steady the tremor in her voice, but Thunder didn't seem threatening. Instead, he approached slowly, as if sensing something different about her. Samantha watched, both fascinated and terrified, as the bull lowered his massive head and seemed to sniff the air near her belly. "Samantha," the voice of Nathan, her husband, echoed from across the pasture. "Don't move!" The 28-year-old woman stayed perfectly still, feeling tears well up. It wasn't just fear of the bull that made her cry. It was everything that had happened over the past few months, all the humiliations she'd endured since marrying Nathan and moving to his family's ranch. "She shouldn't be here," murmured Margaret, Samantha's mother-in-law, to the other women watching from the porch of the main house. "A city girl has no place on a ranch, especially in her condition." Samantha heard the words even from a distance. It was always like this. Margaret Miller never missed a chance to remind her she didn't belong there, that she wasn't good enough for her son. The bull took another step toward her, and Samantha closed her eyes, bracing for the worst. But instead of charging, she felt something warm and damp gently touch her belly. When she opened her eyes, she saw Thunder sniffing delicately at the baby in her womb. "My God," whispered Nathan, who had moved closer. "He's never done that before." It was true, Thunder was known for his aggression, especially towards strangers. 6 months ago, when Samantha first arrived at Three Brothers Ranch, the animal had charged at her, forcing everyone to run. Since then, she'd kept a respectful distance from all the corrals. But now, something was different. "It's the baby," said Miss Eleanor, the oldest midwife in the area, who had quietly approached. "Animals sense things we can't. This boy is going to be special." Margaret scoffed in disbelief, but Samantha saw something in her mother-in-law's eyes she couldn't quite place. Was it fear, concern, or maybe anger? "Nathan, get your wife out of there right now," Margaret ordered. "This is too dangerous." But when Nathan tried to step closer, Thunder lifted his head and let out a low warning bellow. The 32-year-old man froze immediately, well aware of the animal's temperament. "He doesn't want me near her," Nathan murmured, confused. Samantha felt a strange connection with the bull. During her 7 months of pregnancy, she'd felt rejected by everyone on the ranch, except the animals. It was as if they understood her in a way the humans couldn't. "Thunder," she said softly, slowly extending her hand. "I know you understand, don't you?" The bull allowed her to touch his muzzle, and Samantha felt a wave of emotion rush through her chest. For the first time since arriving, she felt truly accepted. "This isn't normal," commented Frank, the ranch foreman, shaking his head. "That bull has injured 3 ranch hands this year. I've never seen him act like this with anyone." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Samantha finally managed to stand up with the help of the bull itself, which remained patiently by her side. When she was on her feet, Thunder let out a louder bellow as if announcing something important. "How strange," murmured Michael, Nathan's older brother, who had just arrived from the fields. "Dad always said animals know things we don't." The mention of the family's late patriarch made the atmosphere tense. Richard Miller had lost his life in a farm accident 2 years earlier, leaving the property to his 3 sons, Michael, Nathan, and Kevin. Since then, the family had been in constant conflict over the ranch's future. "I don't want to hear these superstitions," said Margaret, irritated. "Samantha, come inside immediately. Have you lost your mind taking such risks?" But Samantha didn't move. For the first time in months, she felt in control of the situation. Thunder stayed by her side like a protective guardian. Mom, let her stay a little longer, Nathan pleaded. If the bull is calm, there's no danger. No danger? Margaret raised her voice. Nathan, are you crazy? Your wife is 7 months pregnant. Any sudden move from that animal could be fatal for her and the baby. Samantha felt a sharp pain in her chest at her mother-in-law's words. From day one, Margaret had made it clear she didn't approve of the marriage. Samantha came from a modest family in Springfield, worked as an elementary school teacher, and in the eyes of the Miller matriarch, she lacked the pedigree to be part of their family. Margaret, stop this, Miss Eleanor intervened. The girl isn't doing anything wrong, and from what I see, the bull is protecting her, not threatening her. Protecting her how? Asked Kevin, the youngest son, who had just come running after hearing the commotion. Kevin Miller was a 25-year-old with a business degree who had recently returned from the city with modern ideas about running the ranch. Unlike his brothers, he had always treated Samantha with respect and kindness. Just look at how he's positioned, Miss Eleanor explained, pointing at the bull. Thunder is facing the house, as if he's protecting Samantha from you, not her, from him. The observation left everyone silent. It was true. Thunder was positioned so that anyone who wanted to approach Samantha would have to go through him first. That's ridiculous, Margaret muttered. It's just an animal. But Samantha noticed her mother-in-law seemed more nervous than angry. There was something off in her behavior, as if she knew something the others didn't. Samantha, Nathan said, trying a calmer approach. Why were you in the corral? I thought you were resting at home. Samantha hesitated before answering. The truth was, she had come to the corral to take photos for a secret project. For months, she had been documenting life on the ranch, building a portfolio she hoped would help her land freelance photography work. It was her way of contributing financially to the family, having quit her teaching job after marrying. I was just taking a walk, she lied. I needed fresh air. With a camera in hand, Michael asked, pointing to the equipment that had fallen when Thunder appeared. Samantha blushed. She hadn't thought of a plausible explanation. She was taking pictures, said a woman's voice behind her. Everyone turned to see Haley, Frank's daughter, approaching. The 19-year-old worked as a maid in the main house and had always been kind to Samantha. Pictures of what? Margaret asked suspiciously. Ranch life, Haley answered bravely. She said she wanted to make an album about living here. I thought it was beautiful. Samantha looked gratefully at the young woman but knew her explanation would only cause more trouble. Why do you want to photograph our property? Margaret asked, narrowing her eyes. Are you planning to sell the pictures to someone? Of course not, Samantha protested. You just what? Her mother-in-law pressed. Samantha took a deep breath, knowing she'd have to reveal part of the truth. I want to work as a photographer. I thought about making a portfolio about rural life, about how beautiful the connection between people and the land is. Work? Margaret let out a bitter laugh. Samantha, you're my son's wife and expecting a baby. Your job is to take care of the family, not play around with a camera. Mom, Nathan said uncomfortably, there's nothing wrong with her wanting to work. Yes, there is, Margaret snapped. A Miller doesn't need to work. We're a traditional family respected in this area. If Samantha goes around working, people will think we can't support our own family. Samantha felt her blood boil. This was the last straw. Months of humiliation, of being treated like a stranger in her own home, of having every move questioned, exploded in a wave of anger. I'm not your property, she shouted, startling everyone. I'm not some decorative object to adorn your perfect family. Thunder bellowed loudly as if agreeing with her, and took a threatening step toward Margaret. Samantha, calm down, Nathan pleaded, clearly alarmed by the bull's reaction. I won't calm down, Samantha continued, tears streaming down her face. I'm tired of being treated like I'm worthless, like I'm some burden to this family. No one said you're a burden, Michael tried, but his voice lacked conviction. You don't have to say it, Samantha shot back. You show it every day. Margaret, you've never accepted me. Michael, you barely speak to me, and Nathan, she looked at her husband with hurt. You never stand up for me. The silence that followed was heavy. Samantha had said everything she felt, and now there was no turning back. If that's how you feel, Margaret said coldly. "Maybe you should reconsider whether you really want to be part of this family." "Mom!" Nathan and Kevin protested at the same time, but the damage was done. Samantha looked around at the faces surrounding her and saw only judgment and rejection. Only Kevin, Haley, and Miss Eleanor seemed to be on her side. "Maybe you're right," Samantha said, her voice trembling. "Maybe I don't belong here after all." She made a move to leave, but Thunder blocked her path, letting out a low bellow and gently nudging her back into place. "Even the bull understands better than you," Miss Eleanor said, shaking her head. "That animal knows she belongs here. Why can't you see that?" "Miss Eleanor, with all due respect," Margaret said, "you're not family. You don't understand our traditions." "I've been in this area for 70 years, the midwife retorted. "I've seen 3 generations of the Millers born and raised. And I can tell you one thing. You're destroying this family with your pride." Her words hit everyone like a slap in the face. Miss Eleanor was respected throughout the region, and her words carried weight. "What do you mean by that?" Nathan asked. "I mean your father Richard must be turning in his grave seeing how you're treating his son's wife and the mother of his grandchild." "Don't bring my father into this," Michael said angrily. "Why not? Richard always said family was sacred, that nothing and no one should divide the Millers. And what are you doing, pushing one of your own away?" Samantha felt another wave of emotion. She had only known her father-in-law briefly before he passed, but he had always been kind to her. Richard Miller had a reputation for being a fair and generous man. "My father didn't really know her," murmured Margaret. If he were alive, interrupted Miss Eleanor, "he'd be defending Samantha." Richard never judged people by their background, only by their character. "Enough!" Margaret exploded. "I won't stand here listening to a lecture. Samantha, you have 2 choices. Drop this crazy idea of working and behave like a Miller should, or pack your bags and go back to your family in the city." The ultimatum left everyone shocked. Even Thunder seemed to sense the tension, positioning himself even more protectively by Samantha's side. "Margaret," exclaimed Kevin, "you can't do this." "Yes, I can. This is my house, and as long as I'm alive, I'll decide who gets to live here." "Mom, stop this," pleaded Nathan, but his voice was weak, lacking conviction. Samantha looked at her husband, hoping he'd take a firm stand, that he'd defend her once and for all. But Nathan just lowered his eyes, unable to face his mother. In that moment, Samantha realized she was alone, completely alone. "Fine," she said, her voice steady despite the tears. "I'll leave." "Samantha, no," protested Kevin. "Please, let's talk." "There's nothing to talk about," she replied. "It's clear I'm not welcome here." She tried to walk away again, but Thunder kept blocking her path. The bull seemed determined not to let her leave. "Move aside, Thunder," she said gently, touching the animal's muzzle. "I need to go." But the bull didn't budge. Instead, he lay down on the ground, forming a physical barrier between Samantha and the corral gate. "I've never seen anything like it," murmured Frank. "It's like he understands what's happening." "Animals understand more than we think," said Miss Eleanor. "And this one is trying to tell you something." "What do you think he's trying to say?" asked Haley, fascinated. "That Samantha shouldn't leave, that she belongs here no matter what some may think." Margaret let out an impatient huff. "That's so ridiculous. It's just an animal acting on instinct." "If it's just instinct," said Miss Eleanor, "then maybe we should trust his instincts more than our own prejudices." Samantha looked at all the faces around her. Michael seemed uncomfortable. Nathan was clearly torn. Kevin struggled to find words, and Margaret wore her stony expression of disapproval. "Why do you hate me so much?" Samantha asked her mother-in-law directly. "What have I done that's so terrible to deserve this treatment?" Margaret hesitated for a moment, and Samantha saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? Before she could analyze it further, her mother-in-law's expression hardened again. "I don't hate you," Margaret said. "I just don't think you're suited for this family." "Why not?" "Because I'm the daughter of a factory worker and a seamstress. Because I don't have money. Because I wasn't born on a ranch." "Because you don't understand our values," Margaret replied. Our traditions, our way of life. What traditions? Samantha burst out. The tradition of humiliating those who are different? The tradition of judging people by their background instead of their character? You don't understand. I understand. Perfectly, Samantha interrupted. You're afraid I'll taint your perfect family with my humble origins. You're afraid your friends will find out your son married a teacher with no family name. The silence that followed confirmed Samantha had hit the mark. Margaret was truly ashamed of her. Mom, Kevin said, his voice full of disappointment, is this true? Margaret didn't answer, but her silence spoke louder than words. I can't believe it, murmured Nathan. Mom, do you really feel this way? You don't understand, said Margaret finally. We have a reputation in this region. We're respected. When people find out that... Find out what? Asked Michael. That we're human? That we married for love and not convenience? When they discover Samantha works, that she doesn't come from a traditional family, Margaret continued, they'll start questioning our social standing. Our social standing? Kevin let out a bitter laugh. Mom, that's so last century. For you, maybe, Margaret retorted. But for me, and for many families in this region, it still matters. Samantha felt a mix of sadness and anger. Now she fully understood what she was up against. It wasn't just personal rejection. It was an entire system of outdated prejudices and traditions. Margaret, said Miss Eleanor gravely, you're making the same mistake your mother-in-law made with you 40 years ago. Everyone turned to the midwife, surprised by the revelation. What do you mean? Asked Nathan. Your grandmother Nathan didn't accept your mother when she married your father either. She said Margaret wasn't refined enough for the Millers. Margaret visibly paled. Miss Eleanor, that has nothing to do with... It has everything to do with it, the midwife insisted. History is repeating itself, and you're doing exactly what was done to you. Mom, said Michael, disbelieving, is that true? Margaret remained silent, but her expression confirmed everything. For 2 years, Miss Eleanor continued, Mrs. Elizabeth made Margaret's life hell. She criticized everything, how she dressed, how she spoke, how she cooked, said she wasn't good enough for Richard. And what happened? Asked Samantha, fascinated despite herself. Richard took a stand. He told his mother that either she accepted Margaret or he'd leave with his wife and never set foot on the ranch again. Nathan looked at his mother with a mix of surprise and disappointment. Mom, why did you never tell us this? Because it wasn't important, Margaret murmured. Wasn't important, Kevin exploded. You went through the same pain you're putting Samantha through, and yet you repeat the cycle. It's different, Margaret tried. How is it different? Samantha asked. Because back then, the discrimination was about social class, and now it's about social class too? Margaret couldn't answer. For the first time since Samantha had known her, the Miller matriarch seemed lost without arguments. You know what else? Miss Eleanor went on. Elizabeth was wrong about Margaret, just as Margaret is wrong about Samantha. How can you be so sure? Margaret asked in one last attempt at defense. Because I know people, the midwife replied, and in 70 years of life, I've learned that a person's character has nothing to do with their background. Samantha is a good, hard-working, caring girl. Any family should be proud to have her. Thunder lowed softly as if in agreement, and Samantha couldn't help smiling through her tears. Even the bull agrees, said Haley, trying to lighten the tension. You want to know why Thunder protects Samantha? Asked Frank, who had stayed quiet until now. Everyone turned to the foreman, waiting for his answer. Because she's the first person who isn't afraid of him. Since she got here, she's always treated all the animals with kindness and respect. Thunder senses that. It's true, Haley confirmed. I've seen her talking to the cows, petting the horses. She has a special way with animals. That doesn't mean anything, Margaret murmured, but her voice was weak. It does, said Michael, surprising everyone. Dad always said how a person treats animals says a lot about their character. Samantha looked at her brother-in-law, stunned. It was the first time Michael had openly defended her. Michael, said Margaret in a warning tone. No, Mum. We've stayed quiet for too long, replied the eldest son. Samantha is part of our family, whether you like it or not. And more than that, She's going to be the mother of our nephew. How can we reject her? Because she doesn't fit in, Margaret insisted. Who gets to decide that? Asked Nathan, finally finding the courage to speak. You? Or us who have to live with the consequences of your decisions? Margaret looked at her son with a betrayed expression. Nathan, you're disrespecting me. No, Mom. I'm standing up for my wife, like I should have done from the start. Samantha felt a wave of relief mixed with hope. For the first time, Nathan was openly taking her side. Nathan is right, said Kevin. Samantha is our sister-in-law, and she's going to be the mother of our nephew. We need to support her, not reject her. You don't understand the consequences. Margaret tried one last time. What consequences? Asked Michael. That people will find out we're human, that we have feelings, that we marry for love. That we'll lose the community's respect, Margaret answered. Mom, Nathan said firmly, if the community doesn't respect us because we choose love over convenience, then that community doesn't deserve our respect. Those words hit Margaret like a physical blow. She looked at her 3 sons and saw they were all united against her. You'll regret this, she murmured. Maybe, said Kevin, but we'd rather regret defending someone innocent than destroying a family over prejudice. Samantha felt tears streaming down her face again, but now they were tears of gratitude. For the first time since arriving at the ranch, she felt like she had a real family. Thank you, she whispered, looking at her 3 brothers-in-law. You don't have to thank us, Michael said. You're our family. Thunder finally stood up and moved away slightly, as if sensing the tension had eased, but he stayed nearby, still watchful. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Well, said Miss Eleanor, clapping her hands, now that we've settled that, how about we focus on what really matters? Samantha is 7 months pregnant and has been through quite a scare. She needs rest. You're right, Nathan agreed, carefully approaching his wife. Thunder watched him but made no threatening move. I'm fine, Samantha said, but her voice trembled slightly. No, you're not, Kevin said. Let's get you to the house. Haley, can you prepare some calming tea for her? Of course, the young woman replied, already heading inside. Margaret stayed where she was, watching the commotion with an unreadable expression. Samantha glanced at her one last time before turning toward the house. Margaret, she said, stopping a few feet from her mother-in-law. I know you don't like me, but I want you to know I never meant to cause trouble for this family. I love Nathan, and I'll love this baby more than anything in the world. If that's not enough for you, then I'm sorry. Margaret didn't respond, but something in her expression shifted slightly. Samantha, Miss Eleanor called. Can I talk to you for a moment? Samantha approached the midwife, curious. What the bull did today, Miss Eleanor said quietly, wasn't normal. I've seen many things in my life, but I've never seen an animal react like that to a pregnancy. What does that mean? It means your baby is special, very special. Animals sense things we can't perceive. What kind of things? I can't explain it, the midwife admitted. But this boy will bring important changes to this family. Samantha placed her hand on her belly, feeling the baby move as if responding to the midwife's words. How do you know it's a boy? Miss Eleanor smiled mysteriously. I know, and his name will be Ethan. Samantha froze. She and Nathan had discussed names, but had never settled on anything definite. How could Miss Eleanor know this? How? Some secrets are only revealed when the time is right, said the midwife. Ethan will be a special boy, Samantha. And you'll need to be very strong to raise him. Why? What's going to happen? But Miss Eleanor was already walking away, leaving Samantha with more questions than answers. Come, said Nathan, offering his arm to his wife. Let's go home. Samantha looked once more at Thunder, who was still watching everything intently. For a moment, she thought the animal was nodding at her as if saying goodbye. See you soon, Thunder, she whispered. Thank you for protecting me. The bull lowed softly in response, and Samantha felt she had formed a special bond with him. As they walked toward the house, Nathan remained silent. Samantha could sense he was wrestling with his own emotions. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I should have stood up for you sooner," he said, not looking at her. "I'm a coward." "You're not a coward. Your mother is a strong woman. It's hard to confront her." "That's no excuse," Nathan insisted. "You're my wife. I should have put you first from the beginning." Samantha stopped walking and cupped her husband's face in her hands. "What matters is that you're doing it now," she said. "It's never too late to do the right thing." Nathan kissed her tenderly, and for the first time in months, Samantha felt their marriage had a real chance to work. "I promise I'll be a better husband," he whispered, "and an even better father." "We'll make it," Samantha said, "together." When they reached the house, they found Haley preparing tea in the kitchen. The young woman smiled when she saw them holding hands. "It's so good to see you like this," she remarked. "The ranch feels brighter when you two are happy." "Haley," Samantha said, "thank you for standing up for me out there. You were very brave." "I only spoke the truth," Haley replied. "You're a good person and everyone knows it, except those who refuse to see." "Where's your mother?" Nathan asked, noticing Margaret's absence. "She went to her room," Haley answered. "Said she had a headache." Samantha and Nathan exchanged glances. Both knew Margaret didn't have a headache. She was processing everything that had happened. "Leave her be for now," Samantha advised. "She needs time to accept the changes." "If she accepts them," Nathan murmured. "She will," said a voice. Behind them, everyone turned to see Michael entering the kitchen. "How can you be so sure?" Nathan asked. "Because I know our mother," Michael replied. "She's stubborn and proud, but she's not cruel. When she realizes she's wrong, she'll change. And if she doesn't? Then we'll help her see," said Kevin, also stepping into the kitchen. "Times have changed, and Mother needs to change." With them, Samantha watched her 3 brothers-in-law and felt a surge of affection for them. Despite everything, they were good people, just influenced by outdated traditions. "Did you know she went through the same thing I did?" she asked. "We had no idea," Michael admitted. "Dad never told us." "Probably because he didn't want us to know how Grandma Elizabeth treated Mom," Kevin said. "Miss Eleanor mentioned Dad gave Grandma an ultimatum," Nathan added. "Threatened to leave if she didn't accept Mom." "Did it work?" Samantha asked. "It must have worked," said Michael. "Grandma and Mom got along very well in her final years." "So there's hope," concluded Samantha. "There's always hope," said Haley, serving the tea. "You'll see, things will get better." Samantha took the tea and felt the warmth spreading through her body. For the first time in months, she truly felt at home. "Can I ask a question?" she said hesitantly. "Of course," replied Nathan. "Why do you think Thunder reacted to me like that? I mean, really?" The 3 brothers exchanged glances. "Well," said Kevin, "Dad always said animals are wiser than humans in some ways." "What ways?" "He said animals can see people's souls," explained Michael, "that they don't get fooled by appearances or prejudices." "Thunder saw your soul," said Nathan, gently touching his wife's belly. "And he liked what he saw." "And the baby?" asked Samantha. "Miss Eleanor said he's special." "All babies are special," said Haley. "But this one, I don't know. There's something different in the air since you arrived." "How so?" "Things have started changing," the young woman explained. "People have begun questioning old traditions, thinking differently. It's like your presence is awakening something on the ranch." Samantha reflected on those words. Could her arrival really be causing such deep changes? "Maybe," she said. "It's simply because I'm different from what you're used to, and sometimes different people make others rethink their beliefs." "That's a very wise explanation," remarked Michael. "I'm a teacher," Samantha reminded them, smiling. "Or I was. It's my job to make people think." "Was?" asked Kevin. "You don't want to teach anymore?" "I do," admitted Samantha. "But now I have other dreams too, like photography." "Tell us about that," Nathan urged. "About your plans to work as a photographer." Samantha took a deep breath, knowing it was important to be honest about her dreams and ambitions. "I've always loved taking photos," she began. "As a child, I used my father's old camera to capture everything, people, landscapes, and special moments. In college, I took an elective photography course and fell even more in love." "And now?" asked Haley, intrigued. "Now I see so much beauty on this ranch, in this rural life, that I want to document it all." There are stories here that deserve to be told, people who deserve to be seen. What kind of stories? Michael wanted to know. The story of Frank, who's worked this land for 30 years and knows every inch of it. The story of Miss Eleanor, who's delivered half the children in this region. The story of this family, who've built a legacy across generations. The three brothers fell silent, processing Samantha's words. "We never thought of these things as stories," said Kevin. "To us, it's just everyday life." "That's the beauty of it," Samantha explained. "The most beautiful stories are the ordinary ones, about everyday people doing extraordinary things." "How do you make money photographing that?" asked Nathan. "Ever practical." "There's a market for rural photography," Samantha said. "Farming magazines, websites about country life, people who want to document their properties. And besides that, I can do family portraits, events, weddings in the area." "Sounds interesting," Michael admitted. "It's more than interesting," Samantha said, growing animated. "It's my passion, and I believe I can contribute financially to our family by doing what I love." "Mom will never accept it," Nathan said, discouraged. "Then Mom will have to learn to accept it," Kevin replied, surprising everyone with his firmness. "Times have changed. Women work, have careers, contribute financially. There's nothing wrong with that." "Since when have you thought like this?" asked Michael. "Since forever," replied Kevin. "I just never had the courage to say it. But in college I saw many families where husband and wife work together, build together. It's beautiful to see that." Samantha looked at her younger brother-in-law with gratitude. Kevin had always been the most progressive in the family, but now he was openly showing it. "Thank you, Kevin," she said. "You don't need to thank me for having common sense," he replied, smiling. "And you, Michael?" Samantha asked. "What do you think about all this?" Michael stayed quiet for a moment, clearly thinking. "I think," he finally said, "Dad would be proud to see how you're fighting for your dreams. He always admired determined people, even if I'm just a teacher with no family name." "Especially because of that," Michael answered. "Dad started with nothing. He inherited a small piece of land and turned it into one of the most prosperous ranches in the region. He understood the value of hard work and determination." "So you support me?" Samantha asked, hardly believing what she was hearing. "Of course we do," said Nathan, taking her hand. "I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. And what about your mother?" "Mom will have to learn to deal with it," Michael said. "We can't live trapped in the past forever." At that moment, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Everyone tensed, expecting to see Margaret appear, but it was Miss Eleanor who came down. "How are you feeling, dear?" asked the midwife. "Better," Samantha replied. "Much better." "Good. And the baby? Moving normally?" "Yes, he's very active today," as Samantha said, smiling and touching her belly. "Ethan is happy," Miss Eleanor said matter-of-factly. "How do you know the name will be Ethan?" Nathan asked curiously. "Some things you just know," the midwife replied mysteriously. "Miss Eleanor," Samantha said, "you mentioned my baby is special. Can you explain what you meant?" The midwife looked around as if making sure no one else was listening. "Samantha," she said, sitting at the table, "in 70 years of delivering babies, I've seen many things, but I've never seen a baby still in his mother's belly cause so many changes in a family." "What kind of changes?" "Just look at what happened today," Miss Eleanor explained. "You finally talked about problems that had been buried for months." Michael and Kevin stood up for their sister-in-law. Nathan confronted his mother. "Even thunder stepped out of his comfort zone to protect you." "That could just be coincidence," Michael suggested. "There's no such thing as coincidence," Miss Eleanor countered. "There's destiny, and this boy's destiny is to unite this family." "And Margaret?" Samantha asked. "How does she fit into this?" "Margaret is the most important piece of the puzzle," the midwife said. "When she fully accepts you, the family will truly be united." "And if she doesn't?" "She will," Miss Eleanor said with conviction. "Deep down she knows you're good for this family. Pride is stopping her from admitting it, but her heart knows the truth." "How can we help her overcome her pride?" Kevin asked. "With patience, love and understanding," the midwife replied. "And most of all by showing her you're a united family, despite your differences." Just then they heard the sound of heavy footsteps in the yard. Everyone looked out the window and saw Frank running toward the house. "What could have happened?" murmured Haley. Frank knocked urgently on the door. "Mr. Nathan, come, quick," he shouted. Nathan opened the door, worried. "What is it, Frank?" "It's Thunder," the foreman said, panting. "He's been acting real strange since you left the corral." "Strange how?" "He won't eat, won't drink. Water. He just stands there staring at the house as if waiting for something." Samantha felt a pang of concern. "Do you think he's sick?" "I don't know," admitted Frank. "I've never seen anything like it. It's like he's sad." "Sad?" repeated Michael. "How can a bull be sad?" "Animals feel more than we realize," said Miss Eleanor. "Thunder formed a bond with Samantha. Maybe he's missing her." "Is that possible?" asked Nathan. "Of course it is," replied the midwife. "Animals can form very strong emotional connections." "What should we do?" asked Samantha, worried. "Maybe you should go see him," suggested Haley. "No," protested Nathan. "It's too dangerous." "Nathan," said Samantha, touching his arm, "he protected me today. He won't hurt me." "Even so." "I'll go with her," offered Michael. "And Frank too. If there's any sign of danger, we'll get her out immediately." Nathan hesitated, clearly torn between concern for his wife and the animal's well-being. "All right," he finally said, "but at the first sign of trouble, you leave." "Of course," agreed Samantha. The four walked toward the pen, with Miss Eleanor and Haley following at a distance. When they neared the fence, they saw Thunder exactly as Frank had described, standing still, staring fixedly at the house, uninterested in food or water. "Thunder!" Samantha called softly. The bull immediately turned his head toward her and let out a low, almost melancholic moo. "Would you look at that?" murmured Frank. He heard her voice from far away. Samantha stepped closer to the fence, and Thunder walked straight to her. "Hi, my friend," she said, reaching out to touch the animal's snout. "Were you missing me?" Thunder pressed his snout against her hand and closed his eyes, as if relieved. "Amazing," murmured Michael. "It's like they really understand each other." "They do," said Miss Eleanor, who had approached. "There's a special connection between them." "Why?" asked Nathan. "What's different about Samantha?" "She has a pure heart," replied the midwife, "and animals recognize that." Samantha kept petting Thunder, who seemed to gradually relax. "Are you feeling better now?" she asked, as if understanding. Thunder stepped back and went straight to the water trough, drinking for the first time since that afternoon. "There," said Samantha, smiling. "He just needed to know I was okay." "Remarkable," commented Frank. "In 30 years of working with cattle, I've never seen anything like it." "Samantha," said Miss Eleanor, "you have a special gift with animals. Don't waste it." "What do you mean?" "Include it in your photography plans," suggested the midwife. "Photograph the animals, tell their stories too. There's a lot of interest in the bond between humans and animals in rural life." "That's a great idea," agreed Kevin. "You could create a series about farm animals' lives." "Thunder could be the first model," joked Haley. Everyone laughed, and the day's tension finally seemed to lift completely. "You know," said Samantha, watching the bull now eating peacefully, "I think I learned something important today." "What?" asked Nathan. "That sometimes acceptance comes from the most unexpected places, and that we should be open to love and support, even when it comes in ways we don't expect." "Deep philosophy," remarked Michael, smiling. "That's what happens when you have a lot of time to think," replied Samantha. "And these past months gave me plenty of time to reflect on life." "And what conclusions did you reach?" asked Miss Eleanor. "That family isn't just about blood or tradition," said Samantha. "It's a choice. It's deciding to love and support each other, no matter our differences." "Beautiful," murmured a voice behind them. Everyone turned around, surprised to see Margaret approaching slowly. The family matriarch had been watching everything from the house's porch. "Margaret," said Nathan, tense. "Can I speak with Samantha?" asked her mother-in-law. "Alone?" Samantha felt her heart race, but nodded. "Of course." "I'm not sure this is a good idea," murmured Nathan. "It's fine," said Samantha, touching her husband's arm. "I need to hear what she has to say." The others reluctantly stepped away, leaving Margaret and Samantha alone near the corral. Thunder watched the matriarchs approach carefully, but showed no aggression. "Samantha," Margaret began hesitantly, "I need to apologize." Samantha was shocked. She never imagined she'd hear those words from her mother-in-law. "Margaret, let me finish," interrupted her mother-in-law. "I've been thinking about what Miss Eleanor said, about how Elizabeth treated me when I married Richard." Samantha remained silent, giving Margaret space to speak. "For 2 years," her mother-in-law continued, "I lived exactly what I'm putting. You through, and it hurt. It hurt so much I swore to myself I'd never do that to another person." "Then why—" "Because I forgot the pain," admitted Margaret. "Over time I forgot how terrible it felt to be rejected. And when you arrived, so different from everything I knew, I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid you'd change our children. Afraid our family would lose its identity. Afraid of what people would say." Samantha took a deep breath before responding. "Margaret, I never wanted to change anyone. I just wanted to be accepted as I am." "I know," said her mother-in-law, tears in her eyes, "and instead of giving you a chance, I judged you based on my fears. And now I know I was wrong," Margaret admitted. "Completely wrong. You're a good person, Samantha. Someone my children respect and love, and if they love you, I should love you too." Samantha felt her own tears beginning to fall. "I just want to be part of this family," she whispered. "Truly." "You already are," said Margaret, opening her arms, "and I'm so sorry it took me this long to see it." The two women embraced, and Samantha felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For months she'd dreamed of this moment, and now it was really happening. "Can you forgive me?" asked Margaret. "Of course I can," replied Samantha. "Family forgives." "Family forgives," repeated Margaret, smiling through her tears. At that moment, Thunder let out a soft moo, as if approving the reconciliation. "Even the bull is happy," Margaret remarked, smiling. "He's wise," said Samantha. "He knew we were family before we did." The two women laughed, and Samantha felt that finally, after months of struggle, she'd found her place in the Miller family. "Samantha," said Margaret, "about your plans to work as a photographer." Samantha braced herself for another argument, but her mother-in-law surprised her. "I'd like to learn more about it." "Really?" "Really," confirmed Margaret. "If it's important to you, then it's important to our family." "Thank you," said Samantha, moved. "That means so much to me." "And about the baby," Margaret continued. "I want to be there to help however I can." "I'd love your help," Samantha said sincerely. "Then it's settled," said Margaret. "We're officially a family." The two women embraced again, and this time, Samantha felt the hug was genuine and warm. "Can I ask you something?" said Samantha. "Of course." "What made you change your mind? I mean, really?" Margaret thought for a moment before answering. "When I saw how Thunder protected you today," she finally said, "I realized even the animals recognize your kindness. How could I continue being blind to something even a bull could see? And Miss Eleanor?" "Miss Eleanor reminded me of things I had chosen to forget," admitted Margaret, "about how painful it is to be rejected, about how important it is to give people chances." "And your children?" "My children showed me I was wrong," said Margaret. "Seeing the three of them defending you made me realize they truly love you. And if they love you, it's because you deserve that love." Samantha felt deeply moved by her mother-in-law's words. "Margaret, I promise I'll do everything to be a good daughter-in-law and a good mother." "I know you will," Margaret replied, "and I promise I'll do everything to be a good mother-in-law and a good grandmother." At that moment, the three brothers cautiously approached. "Is everything all right here?" asked Nathan, still hesitant. "Everything's just fine," Margaret answered, wrapping an arm around Samantha's shoulders. "Better than fine. Now we're truly a family." The relief on the three men's faces was visible. "Really, Mum?" asked Kevin. "Really," Margaret confirmed. "Samantha is our family and we'll treat her as such." "Thank God," murmured Michael. "It was about time." "I'm sorry it took me so long," Margaret said. "Sometimes pride blinds us to the most important things." "What matters is that we're all united now," said Nathan, hugging both his wife and mother at the same time. United, Samantha agreed, feeling a happiness she hadn't experienced in months. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 2 weeks after the family reconciliation, Samantha was organizing her photographs on the living room table when she heard a soft knock at the door. It was early morning, and all the men had already left for work in the fields. "Come in," she said, expecting to see Haley or Margaret. To her surprise, an unfamiliar woman walked in, elegantly dressed and around 50 years old. "You must be Samantha," the woman said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you? My name is Victoria Montgomery. I own the neighboring ranch across the river." Samantha had heard of the Montgomery family. They were known for being very wealthy and influential in the area. "Nice to meet you," Samantha said, offering a chair. "Would you like some coffee?" "Thank you, but I won't stay long," Victoria replied, though she sat down. "I came here to discuss a delicate matter." Samantha felt a chill in her stomach. The way the woman spoke suggested she wasn't bringing good news. "What kind of matter?" "Well," Victoria said, glancing around the room as if assessing the decor, "I heard you're planning to work as a photographer in the area." "That's true," Samantha confirmed, puzzled. "Why?" "Because it might be a problem for some of the traditional families around here." "How so?" Victoria sighed, as if forced to explain something obvious. "Samantha, you seem like an intelligent young woman, so I'll be direct. There are certain expectations about how wives from prominent families in this region should behave." "What kind of expectations?" "They're expected to be devoted to the home, the family, the traditions. Working outside might give the impression that the family can't properly support their wife." Samantha felt anger boiling in her chest, but tried to stay calm. "Mrs. Montgomery, with all due respect, times have changed. Many women work these days. In the city, perhaps," Victoria conceded. "But in the countryside, especially in our area, we still value traditions. And who decided these traditions are unquestionable?" "The families who built this region," replied Victoria, with a slightly threatening tone. "Families with a reputation to uphold." Samantha began to understand where the conversation was heading. "Are you here to dissuade me from working?" "I'm here to explain the consequences your choices may have for the Miller family." "What consequences?" "Well," said Victoria, adjusting herself in the chair, "the Millers have always been respected in this area. They're a traditional family with strong values. But if the heir's wife starts working, people might question those values." "What kind of questioning?" "They might think the Millers are facing financial difficulties, or that they've lost their principles. That could affect the family's business." Samantha realized she was being subtly threatened. "Miss Victoria, are you suggesting I shouldn't work to protect my husband's family reputation?" "I'm suggesting you consider the consequences of your actions," Victoria replied. "The traditional families in this region support each other, but that only works when everyone upholds the same standards." "And if I decide to work anyway?" "Then perhaps the Miller family will find that some of the support they enjoy might diminish." The threat was now explicit. Samantha felt a mix of fear and indignation. "Are you blackmailing me?" "I'm being realistic," Victoria answered, standing up. "Think about what's best for your family, Samantha, and remember, you're pregnant. Maybe it's better to focus on being a mother for now." "I can be a mother and work at the same time." "You can," Victoria agreed, "but at what cost?" With those words, the woman headed for the door. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Samantha. I hope you make the right decision." After Victoria left, Samantha sat in the living room, processing what had just happened. For the first time since reconciling with Margaret, she felt isolated and threatened again. When Nathan returned from the fields late that afternoon, he found Samantha quiet and thoughtful. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. Samantha told him about Victoria's visit, watching her husband's expression grow darker. "That woman had the nerve to come here and threaten you?" Nathan said, furious. "She said she's worried about the reputation of traditional families." "Reputation, my foot," Nathan exploded. "Victoria Montgomery has always wanted to control everything in this region. She can't stand seeing other families thrive." "Do you think she was serious about the consequences?" "Victoria has influence," Nathan admitted. but not as much as she likes to think. At that moment, Margaret walked into the room and immediately sensed the tension. "What's going on?" Nathan told her about Victoria's visit, and Margaret visibly bristled. "That snake!" she exclaimed. "How dare she come here and intimidate my daughter-in-law?" Samantha was surprised by her mother-in-law's protective reaction. "Margaret, do you think she could really cause trouble for the family?" "Victoria has always meddled in other people's lives," Margaret answered, "but this time she's gone too far." "What can we do?" "First," Margaret said firmly, "you're not giving up your plans because of that hag. Second, we're going to show her the Millers don't intimidate easily." "How?" "By throwing the biggest baby shower this region has ever seen," Margaret replied with a sly smile, "and inviting all the respectable families to get to know you better." "Mum," Nathan said, "that won't solve the problem. It might even make it worse." "Oh, it will solve it," Margaret insisted. "When people meet Samantha in person, they'll see what a wonderful woman she is, and Victoria will lose whatever influence she thinks she has." Samantha was touched by her mother-in-law's support, but she still had doubts. What if it doesn't work? What if people really reject me? "Then they don't deserve our respect," said Margaret firmly. "Samantha, you're part of this family. We'll protect you, no matter what." "Mum's right," agreed Nathan. "We can't let Victoria intimidate us." At that moment, Michael and Kevin entered the house and found the family in a heated discussion. "What's going on here?" asked Michael. When they learned about Victoria's visit, both were furious. "She has no right to bully our sister-in-law," said Kevin. "He's right," agreed Michael. "We need to do something." "We already have a plan," said Margaret, explaining the baby shower idea. "It's a good idea," agreed Michael. "But maybe we can do more." "How so?" "We can reach out to other families who are also tired of Victoria's excessive influence," suggested Michael. "Show her times have changed and she can't control everyone's lives anymore." "Do you think other families would support this?" asked Samantha. "I'm sure of it," said Kevin. "Victoria isn't liked by everyone. Many people just tolerate her because they're afraid of her." "Then let's move forward," decided Margaret. "We'll organize an event this region will never forget." In the days that followed, the Miller family mobilized like never before. Margaret used her entire network to arrange the baby shower, while the sons discreetly spoke with other families in the area. To everyone's surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Many people were truly fed up with Victoria Montgomery's controlling attitude. "You know," said Mrs. Patricia, the wife of a prominent rancher in the region, during a visit to Margaret, "my daughter also wants to work after she graduates college. If Samantha can break these old prejudices, it'll be good for all." "The young women here." "Exactly," agreed Margaret. "Times have changed and our traditions need to change too." Meanwhile, Samantha kept working on her photography portfolio, now with the family's full support. Thunder became one of her favorite models, always posing patiently for her photos. "You know," she said to the bull while adjusting her camera, "you're the one who started all this. If you hadn't protected me that day, maybe I'd never have found my place in this family." Thunder let out a soft moo as if understanding every word. "Miss Eleanor was right," Samantha continued. "You really are wise." A week before the baby shower, Samantha received another unexpected visit. This time, it was a well-dressed, middle-aged man who introduced himself as Victoria Montgomery's lawyer. "Mrs. Miller," he said formally, "I'm here on my client's behalf to make an offer." "What kind of offer?" "Mrs. Montgomery is willing to give you a substantial sum of money in exchange for your promise not to pursue professional work in this region." Samantha was shocked by the audacity of the proposal. "You're offering me money not to work." "It's a generous offer," insisted the lawyer. "Enough to secure your child's future and—" "Stop," Samantha interrupted. "I'm not interested in dirty money." "Mrs. Miller, I advise you to reconsider. My client is a very influential woman and I'm a Miller," Samantha said proudly. "Tell your client I don't intimidate easily." The lawyer left empty-handed, and Samantha shared what happened with the family at dinner. "She's getting desperate," Kevin remarked. "That's a good sign." "Or dangerous," murmured Nathan. "Desperate people can do reckless things." "Don't worry," said Margaret. "We're prepared for whatever she tries." On the day of the baby shower, The Miller Ranch was unrecognizable. Margaret had transformed the area around the main house into a true outdoor party venue, with elegant decorations and tables filled with sweets and savory treats. "Mom," said Samantha, moved, "I never imagined you'd do all this for me." "You're my daughter-in-law," replied Margaret, adjusting Samantha's dress. "It's my duty to take care of you. And more," added Nathan. "It's our chance to show the whole region what kind of family we are." The guests began arriving in the mid-afternoon. To Samantha's delight, many young women came accompanied by their mothers and mothers-in-law, all curious to meet the photographer who had caused such a stir in the area. "Samantha," said Mrs. Patricia, introducing her daughter, "this is my daughter Ashley. She's finishing her journalism degree and would love to talk to you about working in communications." "It'd be my pleasure," replied Samantha, shaking the young woman's hand. As the afternoon progressed, Samantha noticed she was being warmly welcomed by all the guests. Many expressed interest in her photography work, and some even booked photo sessions for their own families. "You see," whispered Margaret, "how people truly are when they're not under Victoria's influence." "I see," agreed Samantha. "They're just normal, kind people, open to change." Around 5 in the evening, as the party was in full swing, a luxury car pulled up at the ranch entrance. All conversations stopped when Victoria Montgomery stepped out of the vehicle, accompanied by 2 other women. "She had the nerve to come," murmured Margaret. "What do we do now?" asked Samantha nervously. "We greet her politely," replied Margaret, "and show we're not afraid." Victoria approached the group with a fake smile, greeting a few acquaintances along the way. "Margaret," she said as she reached the hostess, "what a beautiful party. I'm sorry I'm late." "Victoria," replied Margaret, keeping her composure, "what a surprise to see you here." "I wouldn't miss the chance to get to know our new neighbor better," said Victoria, looking directly at Samantha. "Mrs. Montgomery," said Samantha politely, "thank you for coming." "The pleasure is mine," replied Victoria, "and congratulations on the pregnancy. When do you plan to stop working to focus on the baby?" The question was asked loudly, clearly meant for everyone to hear. An awkward silence fell. "Actually," replied Samantha calmly, "I plan to keep working after Ethan is born. Photography is my passion." "How interesting," said Victoria with a smile that looked more like a grimace. "And does your husband support that decision?" "Completely," said Nathan, stepping beside his wife. "We're very proud of Samantha's talents." "How modern," remarked Victoria, clearly disapproving. "Modern and necessary," said a voice behind them. Everyone turned to see Mrs. Patricia approaching. "The world has changed, Victoria," the woman continued. "Our daughters need to be prepared for this new reality." "I agree," said another guest. "My granddaughter is studying veterinary medicine. I want her to have every opportunity possible." "And I think it's wonderful that Samantha has a special talent," added a third woman. "This region needs more creative and enterprising young people." Victoria looked around and realized she was clearly outnumbered. Her strategy of public intimidation had failed completely. "Well," she said, trying to maintain her dignity, "I suppose every family has its own values." "Exactly," agreed Margaret. "And the Miller family's values include supporting the dreams and talents of all its members." "Including," added Michael. "Joining the group, we're considering hiring Samantha to officially photograph our ranch events and achievements." "What a wonderful way to document the family's history," remarked Mrs. Patricia. "Victoria, you should consider doing the same." Victoria looked visibly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "Perhaps I should go," she said. "I have other commitments." "Of course," said Margaret politely. "Thank you for coming." After Victoria left, the party atmosphere grew even more cheerful and relaxed. "Did you see her face?" commented Ashley. "Mrs. Patricia's daughter. I don't think she expected everyone to support Samantha. Victoria always overestimated her influence," said another guest. "Most of us only tolerated her because it was easier than confronting her." "Well," said Margaret, "today we showed that times have truly changed. And for the better," added Samantha, touching her belly. "Ethan will grow up in a world where people are valued for who they are, not because of old prejudices." And the party continued into the evening, with Samantha receiving congratulations, advice, and to her surprise, several job offers. "I think it's safe to say your photography career is officially launched," said Kevin proudly. "And in the best way possible," Nathan agreed, "with the community's support." As the last guests departed, the family gathered on the porch to reflect on the day's events. "It couldn't have gone better," said Margaret, visibly pleased. "Victoria must be boiling with anger," remarked Michael. "Let her boil," Margaret replied. "She learned today that she can't control other people's lives anymore." "And we learned," said Samantha, "that when a family stands together, no obstacle fares too great." "Well said," praised Kevin. "It's true," Samantha insisted. "A few months ago I felt completely alone. Now I have an entire family supporting me, a community that accepts me, and a bright future ahead." "And a baby on the way," Nathan reminded her, kissing his wife's forehead. "The luckiest baby in the world," added Margaret. "He'll grow up surrounded by so much love." Just then, a familiar moo came from the barn. Everyone laughed when they realized Thunder was demanding attention. "Even Thunder is happy with how the day turned out," commented Haley, who had helped serve throughout the party. "He's part of the family too," said Samantha. "He's the one who started our journey to becoming a real family." "Then let's thank him," suggested Kevin. They all walked toward the barn, where Thunder waited patiently. Samantha approached the bull and stroked his muzzle. "Thank you, my friend," she whispered, "for protecting me, for accepting me, for teaching us that love knows no prejudice." Thunder let out a soft moo as if accepting the gratitude. "You know," said Margaret, watching the scene, "I think Dad would be proud to see how our family has grown and strengthened." "I'm sure he would," Michael agreed. "He always said family is the most precious thing we have." "And now our family is complete," said Nathan, wrapping his arm around Samantha's shoulders. "Almost complete," Samantha corrected, touching her belly. "We're just waiting for Ethan to arrive and meet all of you." "And when he does," said Margaret, "he'll find a united family, one that's learned love is stronger than any prejudice." "Amen," they all whispered together. As they walked back to the house under the starry sky, Samantha reflected on everything that had happened since that afternoon in the barn, when it all began. From a rejected and isolated woman, she had become an integral part of a loving, close-knit family. "Nathan," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you believe things happen for a reason?" "Why do you ask?" "Because it feels like everything we've been through, the fights, the reconciliations, the challenges, brought us exactly where we needed to be." "I think so," replied Nathan, thoughtful. "Maybe sometimes we need to go through hardships to appreciate what truly matters. And to grow," added Margaret. "We've all grown from this experience." "Especially me," admitted Samantha. "I learned I shouldn't give up on my dreams, but also that family is everything." "And we learned," and said Kevin, "that change isn't necessarily bad. It might be exactly what we need." "Well said," agreed Michael. When they arrived home, everyone said goodbye with warm hugs. Samantha and Nathan went upstairs to their room, exhausted but happy. "It was a perfect day," said Samantha, getting ready for bed. "It was," agreed Nathan. "And it's just the beginning." "The beginning of what?" "Of our life together as a real family, of your professional projects, of everything still to come." Samantha smiled, touching her belly where Ethan was moving actively. "He's restless today," she commented. "Must be excited about everything that happened," joked Nathan. "Or eager to meet the crazy family he's being born into," laughed Samantha. "Crazy but full of love," corrected Nathan. "The best family there is," agreed Samantha. They lay down embraced, and Samantha fell asleep for the first time in months with her heart completely at peace. Not only had she found her place in the Miller family, but she had also discovered her own strength and determination. In the barn, Thunder rested peacefully as if knowing his mission was complete. He had protected Samantha when she needed it most, and now he could rest, knowing she was safe and loved. And somewhere in the region, Victoria Montgomery was plotting her next move, unaware she had already lost the war before even realizing it had begun. But that's a story for another day. For now, the Miller family slept soundly, united and strengthened by the challenges they had faced together. The end of the story. So, what did you think of this heartwarming story? Do you believe Samantha made the right choices by fighting for her dreams? And what about the transformation of the Miller family? Tell us in the comments which part of this journey of love, acceptance, and overcoming was your favorite. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other moving stories. Your participation means so much to us.